Well, good afternoon. My name is Rick Spilacci, and I'm the life celebrant here at Lighthouse Memorials and Receptions. And today it's a real honor and privilege to be here to celebrate the life of Donald Pethley, known to all of us as Donny. And today we really want this to be a celebration of Donny's life. We want today to reflect the love and the joy that he brought to each person here, as is evidenced by each one of you here today. And those joining us on Zoom, we want to thank you for being here as well. We know that if times were different, if the situations were different, we know that you would be here with us live, but we do appreciate you being here virtually, and it's much appreciated. During our service today, there'll be an opportunity. If there's anyone who'd like to share a story, a memory, a remembrance that you had with Donny, there'll be that opportunity. And normally I would invite you to share from where you're seated, and you are welcome to do that if you feel more comfortable doing that. Unfortunately, those that are joining us on Zoom may not be able to hear you as clearly, but if you'd like to share from where you're seated your name, but there'll be that opportunity to also come up here today. Well, in speaking to Chris, he shared with me some very, very amazing videos that I don't know if many of you know this of Donny, or he's just maybe shared it just in passing of his acting during the 50s and 60s. And Chris sent me some really great video clips, and we have a few of those today to remember Donny. So we want to just start off with some of those clips, and you'll be able to see some of the things that Donny had, some roles during the 50s and 60s. So we'd like to start now with some of those. That wasn't his only role right there.
Oh, Donny's flight 576, isn't it?
That's flight 576 is 90 degrees off course. Call the control plane to check.
What do you say now?
Give us 2 days to leave the country or we've got a war on our hands. We did.
Yes, sir.
Army?
Yes, sir. Mr. Boone?
Always said you'd like to have this.
Oh, yes, sir.
You watch it for me, and if I don't come back, it's yours.
Whenever you're fixing to do that.
It'll take a real long gamble since it has.
So long now.
Well, if you could find a gas station like that nowadays, that would be amazing. Now you're at highway patrol and something, I can't imagine what they would do. Well, on behalf of the family, thank you all so much for being here today. For myself, it's a real honor and privilege being here celebrating Donny. And I loved hearing the story of Donny's life and seeing some of these video clips here. There's going to be more. There's another memorial video that we're going to have during the service, and then the longer version of those we'll have streaming at the reception afterwards. So if you missed, some of those were edited down just for time, but the longer versions will be playing during the reception afterwards. I loved hearing stories of Donny's life. You know, some of the stories that really stood out to me was how much he loved all of you as family. You know, he had some properties, and when I was talking to Chris, he said, you know, a lot of the people that are going to be attending there are tenants, and they're way more than tenants, they're family. And I was even commenting to Chris as you were all coming in, I go, a lot of them don't even know who this is Chris, Donny's nephew, and a lot of them didn't know Chris, but you knew Donny, and you knew Donny because he cared so much about you all, and he cared so much and just loved all of you as family. And that's some of the biggest compliment someone can get at the end of life. Donny being 91 years old, you know, many times he loved reminiscing of the old times with people. He loved sharing a lot of his acting times, and maybe you didn't realize that he had that many acting times. But you know, as people gather together and they share stories and memories, it's what really keeps people alive. It's what keeps people alive in our hearts and our memories. And as you gather in future times, as you gather to share stories, to share memories, I want to encourage you to speak of Donny often. You know, many times people will say, well, don't talk about a person that might make the other person sad. And I found it to be the opposite. I found it to be when we gather and we start to reminisce and we start to remember those we love, all those wonderful stories start to flow. So I want to encourage you, when you gather together, and if you knew Donny, share those wonderful stories, those wonderful memories, and all those great times will flow. I'd like to share a poem. As I do, think of Donny. The poem is called Remember Me. It says, don't remember me with sadness. Don't remember me with tears. Remember all the laughter that we've shared throughout the years. And now I am contented that my life it was worthwhile, knowing that I passed along the way and that I made somebody smile. When you're walking down the street and you've got me on your mind, I'm walking in your footsteps, only half a step behind. So please don't be unhappy just because I'm out of sight. Remember that I'm with you each morning, noon, and night. And I know Donny's going to be with each of you in your hearts and your memories each morning, noon, and night. Well, just a moment, I'm going to invite Chris, Donny's nephew, to come up. But there were, as I said, quite a few people that weren't able to be here today. And I kind of want to intermix some of the people's letters here with those that are here, as well as you share stories and think of some wonderful memories. People from all over the country that weren't able to make it today are joining us virtually. So I'd like to read few of those today. This is from Ken Watanabe. It says, Ken, this is Ken Watanabe, who was his tenant of 130, the VIG 201 until the end of March this year. Hope I said that right. I have just understood that Don passed away. I cannot find any single word, and please accept our condolences to Don. He was a great guy and kind and fair anytime to our family. The Watanabes do appreciate his kindness to the foreign family of us. I can recollect that he's mentioned that he loved to build the relationship with his tenants, especially foreign family, because he respected to the foreign culture. Actually, without him, I strongly believe that our beautiful life in Redondo Beach was not there. He is always in our hearts. Thank you, Don. Rest in peace, Ken. One more quick one. From Rick Bellenfant. I am very sorry to hear about Donny. I remember enjoying the many long conversations that I had with him. He sure did have a lot of great stories. Again, very sorry for your loss. And the memories do go on and on. But I'd like to, at this time, invite someone that was very close to Donny, someone who loved him very much, as all of you do. I'd like to invite his nephew, Chris, to please come. Chris?
Take this up so you can hear me. Probably see the Don Pethley in me. All right, well, we knew Donny as our uncle, okay? And he was a great uncle. And I have 3 siblings, by the way, and I'll read a little something from them. As my mother would say, he was our 5th kid, okay? And you'd hear that incorrigible, oh, Donny, all the time from her. But maybe every family has one, kind of that dashing uncle, free of encumbrances, it seemed. He always looked great, spoke well, and had great cars. I can't forget his 1965 Mustang. I don't know if anybody knew he had that. Vicki, you know? Yeah, so he had that 65 Mustang, and my brother and I only had the Matchbox versions, right? So we thought he was something. He was closest in the world to his brother Lowell, my dad. They were products of a pretty tough time. So born in 28 and 30. And they bonded even more by having each other to rely on, even when they were very young. They had to at that time, as you can imagine, the economy. Son of Fay and Sherman, like most during that time, they seemed to struggle all the time. In fact, there were periods where both boys were placed in an orphanage due to financial struggles. So Donny and Lloyd, they grew apart during their years in the service. And my dad should be on it actually here. But upon the return, they kind of took different paths. My dad went into accounting, Don, the arts, right? The arts. So acting, this was his thing, acting, right? Acting was his passion. As you may know, I don't know how many stories he's told, how many are accurate, but he loved it. In fact, I kind of thought, I think tenants gave him an audience. So, in a good way, But it was his passion. He did work in radio in Seattle and in Alaska, but he still pined for the stage. I'll just read a couple of things here this is from the Lethbridge, which is in Alberta, Canada, back in 1953. It says, Don Pethley seems an excellent actor and gave a feeling of absolute sincerity to the part of the idealistic playwright who becomes momentarily disillusioned by some other than less civilized antics of the stage people around him. What a sentence. The part contains, he further says, the part contains the message of the play, and it is to Mr. Pethley's credit that he made some rather banal lines sound very real and sincere. So that's the kind of thing that I'm sure he read over and over and over, right? I've got to get into acting. He did this has some of his credits in it, so I'm going to read quickly. So he also had a stage name. I don't know if anybody knew his stage name. Do you remember, Vicki? Okay, it's Paul Scott. And it wasn't really a stage name, he used it in radio. And so this was for a show, I think it was up in Seattle, KAYO. So they were introducing him to this was in the papers, they were introducing him to their listeners. It says, Paul Scott was born in Tacoma, attending Central School, Jason Leeds Junior High, and then moved to Seattle, graduating from Lincoln High. He attended the University of Washington and was then drafted into the Army, attached to the 6th Engineers. With them, he took part in 2 atomic explosions and witnessed a total of 17 atomic explosions in Nevada. So maybe that explains some things for you, right? He was then transferred to Special Services and toured West Germany, appearing in shows with Danny Kaye, Eddie Fisher, and Vic Damone. These kids won't know that. Most people won't know that, actually. Following, later he transferred to the Division of Motion Pictures at Munich and appeared in government-sponsored films with James Madison and Hildegard Neff. I don't know who Hildegard Neff is. He narrated prize-winning films and then returned home. Following his discharge, he joined stock companies in Vancouver, and this one I just talked about. Then went to Hollywood, appearing in 23 TV films, including Highway Patrol, Frontier Doctor, Playhouse 90 I couldn't find, Fathers Know Best, Telephone Time, Men of Annapolis, Dragnet, Perry Mason, Lawrence Welk, and many others. He decided, however, that he preferred radio. I don't think that's true. So he came back to Seattle to join KAYO. He loved talking about the stage, loved thinking about the stage, and I don't know if maybe a few people here knew that every May he would go back to New York.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Everybody knew that? He'd go back to New York in May, just before the Tonys, because that's when they put all the best actors and actresses out on stage, right? So Denzel Washington and Raisin in the Sun and so on.
Yes.
So he would go in May, and he would be there for 2 weeks, right? Camp out in a place called Joe DiNapoli's, yeah, on 34th Street. I met him there once. He was holding court. Let's see. So he saw way too many plays. There's no question, but he wanted to talk about them all. He wanted to critique them all.
Yes.
All right. So I had a little section here. They just don't make them like this anymore. Some of the sayings that he would have. So one thing he would always tell all of his kids, and maybe enunciate and project to the back of the room. I don't know how many times he said that to me. Oh my God. All right. And he'd ask him how he was. Fair to middling. Right. And he'd love to say, "Hey there, young fella." That was his. He'd say it to my dad, who was older than him too. He said, in real estate, we have a term for square footage. We call it squiffy. I'm like, no, that's not it. But he would, he thought he owned it. He also loved the term curb appeal, right? And he wasn't always talking about real estate when he said that, by the way. One of the few people who could talk while laughing. I don't know if you ever experienced him laughing and talking all at the same time. I can't do it justice, so I'm not going to try it. He would also invoke the term Jiminy Cricket. My Jiminy Cricket would tell me, right? That was supposed to be his conscience. So he'd tell me, and we would hear it, and it just roll off his tongue. He also referred to people who would come take a look at a property and then they wouldn't return. He always called them B-backs. They're all B-backs. There it is, a B-back. And when he'd answer the phone, at least for those of us who didn't live here in beautiful Redondo or Manhattan Beach, he would say, "Manhattan Beach!" And then it was usually accompanied by the temperature if he knew it was shit where we were at. Sorry for the kid. Right? 75, 72. Oh my goodness. And actually, I think I took a lot of wind out of his sails. I live in Atlanta now. He'd say, "It's 72. I'm like, "It is here too." Oh, okay, and he was always searching for real estate deals. He just couldn't help himself. And I wonder where that started. Betty Miller. That's where that started. So
Yes.
everybody know who Betty was?
Yes.
Yeah. So Betty was a true force. She was fair, strong, not to be trifled with. Anybody who knew her, right? Wonderful. She owned her own real estate business in the 70s. She hired Don, and in my opinion, an amazing woman. And it began a lifelong affair with real estate, lifelong love affair with real estate, and more importantly with Betty. They traveled extensively: China, Hawaii, Europe, and on a couple square dancing cruises that I hope you'll talk about because they were big into square dancing, right? That world to me was just bizarre. I didn't even know that really kind of existed until I saw Betty and her big dress. Let's see. Out of that love grew some holdings that frankly generated his kind of second family, which most of you were considered that. People ask what's going to happen to Donny's ashes. They will be interred at the Pierce Brothers Westwood Cemetery with the ashes of Betty. All right, so my sister, just give me 1 second. Yeah, question? Okay. So Lynn said Eric and I will be with Donny's brother Lowell. They're with him now, helping him participate in the memorial by viewing it from his memory care facility here in Wisconsin, there in the Madison area. Eric and I look forward to seeing you all at the memorial, and we miss you, Uncle Donny. For my brother Kurt, who couldn't make it, he had a real long one. I had to cut this down. It says Donald Rudolph Pethley. Did everybody know Rudolph was his name? Right? Okay, that was after Rudolph Valentino. Okay, and my dad was Lowell after Lowell Thomas from Louis Joan Newton, for those for the trivia. Okay, so Betty passed 10 years ago. This is from my brother Kurt. Long years for Donny. He bought and moved into the home Betty owned. And because Betty chose them, he refused to replace the carpet and the drapes, despite the desperate need to do so years earlier. Okay, so he was just connected to it, right? He loved turkey legs, Cornish hens, though his appetite drained in the last few years, he couldn't put on weight. A year ago, he gave up drinking wine after a couple of dangerous falls in his home. His favorite wine was Liebfrauen milk, right? Mother's milk, right? It doesn't literally mean Lord, but that's okay. He called it that, which, as my brother said, was like Donny, sweet and cheap. Kurt, you gotta laugh. Okay, shy Donny? No, he was not shy. He would walk up to someone reading a newspaper and ask them if they're going to read the other sections. I don't know if you were ever with him when he did that, but he had completely unabashed, right? I mean, it would be embarrassing to those of us that were with him, but it didn't bother him at all. Matter of fact, Kurt recalls this because I was with him at the time. We were probably, 8 and 10. But we're playing golf, and he slices, he was a horrible golfer. He sliced the tee shot so badly, it hit the side of a construction pickup truck. All right? Where was it? It hit the side of and we, standing with him on the tee, heard this big bang, okay? So he promptly jumped in the car, drives down to the scene of the crime, and asks one of the workers, "Have you seen my ball?" The guy was speechless, didn't say anything, so we just kept driving, right? So he could be difficult at times, but he meant well. He could talk endlessly on the phone, especially if he had some Liebfrauen milk with him. And he generally wanted to help people and cared greatly for Betty, his brother, sister-in-law, nephews, and nieces. He would greet you with a warm smile and a "How are you, kid?" reminiscent of George Burns. To Donny, a refrigerator was an icebox, a movie theater was a movie house, and Panera Bread was piranha bread. Right? I hope you guys share some more, because I can only get so many of them. He was not just our uncle, he was a close friend. I love him and will miss him, and always have the fondest memories of him. When I think of Donny, I smile and say, "See you later, kids." My sister Suzanne, this is the last one here. My sister Suzanne, my Uncle Donny always will be richly drawn in my mind. In some ways, he was bigger than life because he had such a zest for life. He loved the art of acting, New York theater, California real estate, his brother, her dad, Louie, and last but not least, Betty Miller. He could always surprise me. After Betty's memorial, he wanted to go out with the family for dinner. He chose a local restaurant. It turned out to be a pretty rowdy place. When the waitstaff started a conga line, Donny got up and danced with him. This is after Betty's memorial, right? I watched and learned. He was always celebrating life. For Donny, life was to be lived well and enjoyed to the fullest. Thanks. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Chris. Great memories. Good stories. I love it. And in just a moment, we're going to give you the opportunity to come up to share some more wonderful stories and some more wonderful memories. I'd like to share one from someone who's joining us online. Tweet, is that correct? Tuit H. Tran. Don was my neighbor who was so giving with his wisdom and fruit trees. He used to bring us He used to bring over to our house the fruits and fresh lemons and grew the sweetest tomatoes. He shared with me through his raspy voice the wisdom of property management and real estate. He always says, keep your real estate and never sell it to Uncle Sam. Don worked so hard taking care of his property. Now he can rest in peace. It was so nice to see his face light up through the kitchen window when I brought over my favorite Vietnamese dishes, or when I came to keep him company. As I said, the stories continue. But we'd love to hear from some of you. So is there anyone who would like to, at this time, share a story, a memory, or remembrance? No one ever wants to go first.
You hear some square dancing?
Please. Thank you. There you go.
My wife Barbara and I met Don and Betty through square dancing. And that was about 25 or 30 years ago. And we have endless memories of dancing with them, taking square dance cruises, and just really enjoying life with them. On the cruises, Barbara would take maybe 40 to 80 people, all square dancers, and we would reserve some dance hall on the ship to dance. Everybody would come dressed in their square dance attire and have a great time. So we got very well acquainted with Don and Betty on those dances, on the cruises, and the good times we had. We also did round dancing with them, and a lot of people probably don't know what round dancing is. But round dancing is actually ballroom dancing, where everybody does the same step at the same time, and you're going around the room counterclockwise. And it's very elegant, really. You see people doing these nice waltzes, everybody doing the same thing and making their turns. And Betty was a very, very good round dancer, and Don was very good too. So we enjoyed doing a lot of round dancing with them as well as square dancing. One time I accompanied Don to visit one of his tenants in North Redondo Beach. And he was driving his Jaguar, which he was very proud of. I don't know if you guys knew he had a big black
Greatest
Jaguar.
car ever.
Yeah.
Greatest car ever.
So he walked up and knocked on the door. And the tenants, he was unhappy with them, and they were unhappy with him. Because they were unhappy, they painted the living room all black. I don't know if you've ever tried to cover black paint, but it's a mess. So he got very angry and said a few bad words to him, and we finally left. But I thought that was an interesting encounter.
Don't get any ideas.
Let's see.
Christmas parties.
I'm sorry. Our Square Dance Club every year had a special event, a Christmas party. And Don wanted to perform at the Christmas parties, and that was fine because he was such a good performer. So he would do what I call readings. He would get up and put on this whole reading. Some of them were serious, some of them were sort of semi-serious, but he did a wonderful job presenting those readings. And the people at the party always really appreciated him getting up and doing those. So I'll remember him very much for that.
Did he do his reading from Hot Tin Roof? Did he do that one?
The last reading was the Glass Menagerie.
Oh, Glass Menagerie.
Yes, that was the last reading.
All right.
Yeah, that was the last.
Yeah, I don't remember
I
that.
was blessed to go to that last Christmas.
Did you really?
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
yes.
But he loved to perform, and he did a good job at it. I mean, he was a professional.
Yeah, you're right.
Now, I've got to tell you one other sort of strange thing that he and I shared. About 6 months ago, I had the aorta valve in my heart replaced. And about a month later, he had the valve in his heart replaced. Fortunately, I've had very good success after mine. I feel healthy and vigorous, and I'm doing fine. And after Don had his done, he called me up and said, hey, let's go out and have lunch. So I said, sounds great. And he called me a couple days later and said, hey, I have to postpone this. He didn't say why. And he set another date to have lunch. He postponed that one the third time, and then he unfortunately passed away. I'm so sorry that he did that because I wanted to at least talk to him one more time. Did you have something you wanted to add, Bert?
Old age.
But we love Don, we love Betty, we had a lot of wonderful occasions with them, and they'll be in our memories for a long, long time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for sharing. Someone else like to share? Please.
Take the next call.
Yeah, why don't you come on?
Can Loy see us?
Yes,
Yes.
I believe so.
As, Loy, I'm Earl Yesman. You might not remember me. I think you and Aggie came out here about, I don't know, 30, 40 years ago. And we went to Hollywood with Don, myself, Betty may have been there. And we saw John and Laura Kent, I believe is his name. He was a famous actor back then. He did a one-man show, and I always remembered that. I met Don in 1974. That's almost 50 years ago. And he was working for Suburban Realty in Gardena. And I was about 27 and just got married, looking for a house, and I walked in, and Don was the floor guy for that day, and I remember him coming around the desk in the Renaissance way and shaking my hand, and he found us a house. And I asked him, it took about 3 months, and I asked him so many questions during those 3 months. He looked at me and said, "Why don't you get your real estate license?" Instead of selling me another house. And so I got my license, and Don is responsible for me quitting my job and getting into real estate. But him and I bought more property than we sold. We would take clients out to see the properties, and after about the third client, if the property didn't sell, we'd buy it ourselves. Because we thought everything was a good deal, and real estate turned out to be a good deal. But got to know Don pretty well, probably a couple lunches a month at least over that time. And he was always trying to get me to go to New York with him to see the plays, and he would stay for 2 weeks, and I didn't want to stay for 2 weeks, but one year I went with him. I went for 8 days, and Don was there for 2 weeks, and same hotel, President Hotel or something like that, he'd stay at, and we'd stay there, and he went to a play every night, and twice on Saturday. I went a couple times. I saw Valley of the Dolls. He had seen it about 4 times, so he went to something else. And when that night, when we met back at the hotel, I raved about it so much. The next night, he didn't tell me, but he went and saw it for the 5th time. The next night, I saw another movie, Carnage or something like that. It was probably about 10 or 15 years ago. And then he wanted to walk over the Brooklyn Bridge. So we were having trouble on the subway, so we had to do a lot of walking to get there because we get off at the wrong stop. And we walked over the Brooklyn Bridge, and Don saw a coffee shop, something like a Denny's, and wanted a milkshake. I said, milkshake? I haven't had a milkshake in 30 years. So we had the milkshake, we come back, we're getting kind of tired. We passed the Empire State Building, and Don wants to go up to the top of the Empire State Building. So just like a kid sometimes. So we went out there a couple hours, we finally get back, and about a block back from the hotel, I almost had a carrier, we ran out of gas. But always happy. There would be 2 or 3 months where I might not hear from him. And I think he was sick during that time, and he didn't want to, maybe it's something I said, I don't know. I don't think he liked showing people anything but happy, positive type of person he is, and I'll always remember him. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great stories. Someone else like to share?
Thanks for the wine
That kind of goes with part of my story, that the first time I met Don, actually that day, my wife at that time told me she was going to Hawaii taking the kids. And, you know, it'd be nice if I was gone when I got back. So that day, I booked it out to find a place to live, and there's Don. He looked like, I thought I met the real Mr. Furley. I didn't even remember that to his company show. But me and him hit it off for goofing around and having a good old time. That was kind of a crappy day, so I appreciated that, and I was always grateful that Don gave me a place to live. And I didn't have to worry about too much about that. I always told him so. I met Betty before I met Don, but I didn't know it at the time. She just used to walk Prince by our house when we lived in Manhattan Beach, and used to stand out there and shoot the breeze with Betty. And then Don was always talking about his girlfriend, and she needed something done over there, some electrical thing. And I show up and, hi, there's Betty, and there's that dog. And then, you know, okay, I know Betty. But Don was always positive. He'd always call me, hey, let's break an egg. He'd come over for breakfast, and he always complimented me, butter me up with my fried eggs. He said, you know, were you ever in the service? And I go, no. He goes, you should have been. He goes, when I used to go walk into the mess hall and ask for 2 eggs sunny side up, they always just plop down scrambled eggs. So I'd ask for them every day. But he was a funny guy, and I sure enjoyed having him for a friend. I was pretty sad when I'm sorry that I got really busy, and what he kept calling me, breaking egg, I couldn't do it. Missed out. But I do love that one. Thank you.
Thanks so much for sharing. Anyone else like to share? No worries.
First, I just have to clarify, I'm not the wife that asked him to not be there. Let me just clarify that part. I'm the second wife. Anyways, I met Don through my husband now. We started dating shortly after that, and so then when we got married, we've been in different parts, with Don, and Don was a pretty regular visitor at our house on Sunday mornings, as James was saying. We started out going out to places, and we would go to try different Italian restaurants, and it was always fun to be there with Don because, he could talk to anybody, and he would just pull in the waitress and be like, come sit down with us. And she's like, I got things to do, but he's like, no, come sit down. And so it was always fun. We'd have these really, long, fun wine and pasta and whatever else. It was such a blessing. And we would hear all of these stories, and he would tell us these jokes, and the jokes would sometimes go on for 5 minutes, and we're like, where's this going? And then you get to the end, we're like, okay. But it was always.
You're pretty clean.
Yeah, they were always pretty clean. Some of my favorite memories are not when we were at restaurants, but when he would come over, and he loved anything sweet. He loved cinnamon rolls and maple bars and all of that. And especially the last few years, I really wanted to make sure he was eating because, you know, I was like, let's just get food in you, let's get calories. And so we'd always make sure that we had muffins and cinnamon rolls and whatever that was. And he'd always hand the plate back to me. He goes, can you warm this up? And I'm like, sorry, I forgot. So I'd get the warm, I need a placemat. And I'm like, sorry, I forgot. And so I got really good at it by the end. I would have it all set up and ready to go. I'd have the placemats out, I'd make sure the plates were warm, have the pastries warm, and we just loved it. And he was like,
He said, I blame my mom.
Yeah.
For all these things.
yeah, and but he would always be really direct, and he would tell me he loved that. I loved that time and the stories and the radio stories. And one of my favorite last memories was we would be talking about something, we'd have a question about something, and so we had an Amazon Alexa thing, and so we'd go, Alexa, and we'd say, what's whatever? Doug would go, whoa, what's that? Where's that coming from? What is that? And we're like, Don, it's the Alexa, it's the Amazon, you can ask it anything. He's like, what do you mean? And so it would happen like every week, where you're like, hey, what's the weather now? Alexa's weather. You go, what's that? Where's that coming from? And so it was really cute. He got into the Alexa, so we started trying to ask her things, and then we'd all yell at her when she wouldn't give us the right information. But he really was such a blessing to us. And as Dave said, we had a couple of weeks right before, and we had seen him right after his last surgery. We thought he was actually seemed to be doing really well and had so much more energy, and so we were really hopeful and thought that we had a lot more time with him. And then, a couple of weeks went by and we hadn't heard back, trying to get something scheduled. We found out he was in the hospital, and, we were waiting for him to come home and come back to breakfast. And we were just really sad that we missed out on that last time. And, we really loved him and enjoyed him. And I'm going to cry, so I'm going to stop right now.
Anyone else? Thanks so much for sharing.
My name is Marina Hopinez, and I met Don since I was born. I lived with his mom. My mom took care of his mom, Faye, and I grew up loving Faye. She was my best friend, and through Faye I met Don. He would come once a week to take her to Donny's on Crenshaw on 182nd. It's no longer there, but that's where they would go, and I would always see that restaurant, like, oh, that's where they go on their weekly date. And so I just brought an album where I found some pictures of Don. Really quick. Here. And then there's a birthday party where there's pictures of Betty where I remember her also visiting. But I always love this picture of Don in Faye's backyard. And he's just, I think it just encapsulates who he is. He could hand it around. And my family's so appreciative of Don for taking us in because we weren't in the best situation either. And he just brought our whole family in. We lived with Faye for about 6 years. And it was just such a wonderful childhood upbringing for me, knowing Don and Faye. Thank you so much.
Maybe after the picture gets passed around, we can place it up here by Donny's urn, and then just make sure you pick it up at the end of the song, so you don't want to lose that one. If anyone else is thinking of sharing, I want to share just a couple more here that were sent in. From Kelly Phelan. Don was so grateful that I fixed some issues on his cell phone that he ran to his closet and signed a headshot from when he was in his 60s, 30 years earlier, and proudly gave it to me. He told me, and just for myself, I don't read these ahead of time, so these are all made from her.
You've earned it.
You heard my headshot. He told me all about his acting days, and he was so proud to have had a good role on Dragnet. Don tried to get me to buy King Charles Spaniel because he had one with Betty, and he insisted I bought one and had to name it Princey, which was his beloved dog's name. He wanted visitation rights, and he was very serious about that for several weeks. I really think Don is in line dancing and feeding scraps of food to Princely under the table with Betty at his side. From Lordly Wagner, I really wanted to be there, but I am in quarantine. Last time I saw Don, we had such a nice time. I pray I will see him again someday. And there are a few more, but I'd like to ask if there's anyone here who would like to share today, please.
I don't really want to come up here.
Okay.
You know, Don was a great person. He did give me a place to live also. I'm very, very grateful for that. And we don't remember anything else. Just remember Don in his yellow sweater. Always smiling, drinking his orange juice. And he was just so upbeat. You know, he would call me and just check on me periodically. And I don't have a lot of family here, so it meant a lot to me. And I would say by far he's probably the best, had to be the best landlord of any landlord out there. He was just great. He's a great guy, you know. And he will be missed, but I know he would want us to be happy and not be sad. Because I was thinking I was going to cry when I came, but that's not the kind of person he was, you know, from what I know. And thank you for having me, and we love God.
Thank you. From Darcy Andy, please accept mine and Jason's condolences on the loss of Don. Our prayers are certainly going up for you and your family. Someone else here like to share? It's like we're doing a tag team here. It's good. Please.
I was not prepared to came to the front. I'm kind of nervous. My English is kind of rusty, but I think I'm resolved. One day on December of 1992, I came to the United States. 6 months later, I met Dan. Since that, he was my friend. He was my support. He was everything to me. Since he passed away, I think I'm last part of my life because I spent enough time working with him, and to me he was like my father, and I really miss him. So thank you.
Anyone else like to share? Please.
Hi friends and family. My name is Vicki Parker, and Don and I started out as tenant-landlord relationship, and for 25 years I rented the same little apartment, the same little house from Don, and Don lived in the back of me. Well, I knew Don and Betty together, and what an amazing couple. What a couple. You know, they would drive down the driveway, and I had a daycare in his front yard in the house that I was renting. And there'd be 5 half-naked babies running around with no diapers on. And Betty would calmly drive by in the driveway, and she would say, "Vicki, I see you've got some kids today." And I would say, "Yes, I do. I have children today." And so I had that relationship with Don and Betty, and living in a rental for many, many years. And going forward, as time went on, Don and I I'd plant something in the garden, and he'd tell me I just didn't plant it right. And we probably should put it someplace else. So I'd dig it up out of the garden and put it in the front yard or someplace else. Of course, this is his property, and rightly so. And so I was in a place of just listening to Don. And paying attention to Don. And I clung on to his every word. I listened to his experiences in radio, and in TV. I listened to his heart. I listened to tales about his brother and him growing up in Seattle, about Grandma being a Christian person and having her Bible on her lap, and about the many stories with Mom and Dad, and some weren't so pretty, and some severe, and some good, and some bad. I listened to precious memories of Chloe and Aggie. And I had been blessed, and my husband and I, Rob, went to the theater with them and saw a show with half-naked people. I didn't know what to say with Betty. I thought maybe Don prepared for that, but nobody knew, so we saw half-dressed people on stage in a play that probably should have been performed in the 70s. It wasn't. And so we went through that, and we just had this honest, bone-to-the-bone friendship. And it was just very cultivated and loved and very enduring. And my husband and I allowed for this relationship to grow with Don. And Don and I had planned, we spent every week at the park during COVID, family. I'd meet him on a park bench. And I was with him, and we talked, and sometimes we'd have coffee, and sometimes we weren't. And through his getting thinner and things going on, and I'd drive past the house, because, you know, Don was a man of great integrity. And by no means, no way, no how did I want him knowing that I was sitting outside of his house, watching if the lights go on or off, making sure that he was okay. Because I did not want to knock on the door and say, "Hey, Don, are you okay?" Because that wasn't okay for me. It wasn't okay. That's the kind of friendship that we had. And as we sat on those park benches, through the later times of Don's life, we talked about God. And he said to me one day, he said, "Come here, kid." And we were at the park bench, and he had his mask on, and I had mine on. He said, "Come here." And I came here. And he said, "You know," he said, "I love the Lord." He said, "I love Jesus." He goes, "I thank him every night." And I said, "You do?" I said, "Do you know how happy that makes him?" I said, "You know, that probably makes him so happy, Don." And we talked, and we talked. And so I believe that I know beyond a shadow of a doubt where our Donny is right now. I know he is basking at a table, eating his cinnamon rolls, having his red wine because now he can, and he doesn't have to stumble and trip anymore over it, and it's an honest, pure way of Don's heart. Don and I jumped on the bus at Wilson Park. We went to the Hollywood Bowl. He taught me the difference between chamber music and a string quartet. He taught me how to not only see a play and recognize the good and the bad, but to sit down and talk it over. Talk it over. He taught me that beyond all, there is this connection. There are these movies that we can share. There are these stories that we can share. There are these people's lives that we can share that grow and burn in us. And Don became closer, if you will. For a man who didn't recognize Jesus, he became closer to the Lord on that park bench in the middle of Perry Park. So I didn't bring the Bible because I didn't want to scare him away. I don't want to, I don't want to put too much on him. But Don and I had a powerful, powerful friendship, one that I will never forget. We had fashioned ourselves with my husband's permission. We were going to New York 2 years ago. We had it all laid out. We were going to see 2 shows a day, a matinee and an evening performance, and we were going. And he was going to have his room over here at that hotel, and I was going to have mine at the President Hotel, which had turned into something else he explained to me. But he had his part, I had my part. We had it all laid out. Well, I see Don on a lamppost with his felt hat off 42nd Street, standing there, waiting for that next stage play. And I see him vibrant, and I see him whole, and I see him in the place that we know where he is. And the right now, I don't want to stumble over my words, but I want to share something with you. I shared this with him. And this is just a funny little thing. This is God's little instruction book. It goes from 1 to 3. But I read this to him, and he loved this. It goes like this. If the grass looks greener on the other side of the fence, you can bet the water bill is higher. And so that actually is not those words, but that's from Hebrews 13:5. And this is the verse that backed it up. And this is my Donny. And it says, let your character or moral disposition be free from love of money, including greed, avarice, lust, and craving for earthly possessions, and be satisfied with your present circumstances and with what you have. And I just thought, man, out of everything we could have shared in this book, he chose that one. He chose a couple other ones, but I won't share those with you because those are pretty personal with me. But he shared his ups, he shared his downs. He shared his love for his family and his friends. He shared his love for his brother, Nagy, so much. He just everything was about them. And, I called my brother today, and he would talk about, the later things that are happening and what's going on, and just personal things. And I just want you all, friends and family, to know that if you ever walked a path with Donny, you will never, ever, ever forget it. Because he is a man of men. And he is somebody that I will treasure, I will love. In my heart, he will stay. And I know where he is. And it doesn't matter really what we think on this earth. What really matters is what we pour into one another. I've heard stories of Don pouring into each and every one of you. And I waited to the last because I love to hear those stories. I've heard so many of those stories. And I just want you all to know that you're so beloved. You're so beloved to him. And you made his world and you made his life. Every story that he recollected with you came from his heart. Every electrician story that I heard from Don about his friend going to fix this and troubleshooting that and what a glorious man he was, every bottle of wine that was sat in his porch before he stopped drinking was a blessing to him. And I just want y'all to know that, you are all in God's favor. And Don loved each and every one of you in his own way. And I just think that's just an awesome thing. Thank you.
Vicki, thank you. Thank you for sharing Donny's heart with us. We appreciate that. Anyone else like to share? And of course, afterwards, there's going to be a time just across the foyer here to have a time of reception. There's going to be some food back there for everyone to continue to share those stories, those wonderful memories. In just a moment, we're going to have a little memorial video here of Donny. But I'd like to share one last person who couldn't be here today. I'd like to share their letter. From Shannon Stanton. Don and I met because we were one of his tenants. He would stop in every once in a while to check on us and just to say hello. He either had on his that 70s outfit or his Hawaiian beach look. That's why we kind of did the Hawaiian look today. So I think Chris said we didn't have to wear the shorts or the blue, the odd colored blue shirts. We would usually sit and chat, and he would share so many great stories, from his time in radio, talk shows, to going to Alaska to work, to buying properties, to his time in the Hollywood scene. Sometimes he would show us his Jaguar and want us to go see one of his condo properties or go grab a milkshake at Ruby's. He always said he wanted to drive up the coast in the Jag. I wish I would have taken him up on the offer. It would have been a blast. The longer we knew each other, the more comfortable he was sharing and talked about his brother and his brother's wife and children. How lucky he thought they were to be married and happy with the successful grandkids that they had. He wished he had married Betty. He truly loved her and admitted she asked him once, but he said no, and that it never was discussed again. He liked to go out to eat for brunch on Sundays and go to the Hollywood Bowl each season. Always amazed me how well he got around and how much he did and remembered at his age, which no one ever knew. Still never knows, I believe. I'll keep it a secret. He liked to cook. He liked to cook as well. He would share his recipes and had me over for dinner a time or two. He loved his, Liebfraublicken. I hope. He always said it meant mother's milk in German. Oh, that's wine. Don was a good man that loved his family and his life. He would prepare the meal and the wine to take to the bowl so he could listen to some classical music and enjoy our evening under the stars, his words. He was always the perfect gentleman, and he knew how to show a lady a good time. I wish he was here for me to give to him one last hug and kiss on the cheek to say goodbye. I will never forget him. Both he and your family are in our prayers. I hope he is in heaven and square dancing with Betty. And Shannon, thank you for sending that and sharing that today with us. Well, as I said, in just a moment, we're going to pause with a special video. We're going to see some more of Donny's life and the clips and the wonderful times that he had there in music and radio. But you know, in days to come, weeks, could be hours, there's going to be a time, I know for myself, when I have someone that I loved very much and I had a loss. I know suddenly I can be in the strangest places. I can turn down a street, maybe that I've never turned down before, smell a smell, taste a taste, and all of a sudden, boom, those memories rush back. And we can do one of two things. As you have your remembrance kind of flood in with Donny, you can do one of two things. Push that memory down and say, not now. Or ponder in your heart all the wonderful times that you spent together. And I want to encourage you to do the latter, to just really ponder in your heart all the great times that you had with Donny. I'd like to share a poem and encourage you to look for those little signs, those little things that remind you of Donny. The poem is called Look for Me in the Rainbows. It says, time for me to go now. I won't say goodbye. Look for me in the rainbows way up in the sky. In the morning sunrise when all the world is new. Just look for me and love me. As you know, I loved you. Time for me to leave you. I won't say goodbye. Look for me in the stars shining in the sky. Every waking moment and all your whole life through. Just look for me and love me. As you know, I loved you. And you know Donny loved each of you very, very much.
Keep showing it to you.
you why. Mrs. Tyson says we gotta move. She threw all our clothes out of the room. She said we gotta be out by 12 o'clock.
Oh, she did, did she? You tell that old final accident we paid our rent. We're not moving anywhere.
Just keep it on there.
Until next Monday. Now get out of here. Rolling someplace for a kid.
It's kind of like those old movies where you're experiencing technical difficulties. Kind of flutters out. We're going to switch to another video because there's one that we're going to be showing afterwards in the reception hall. So I believe it's this one that's coming up now. It's kind of like the old times when the film breaks. Right. You can shed a tear that he's gone, or smile because he lived. You can close your eyes and hope he'll come back, or open your eyes and see all that he has left. Your heart could be empty because you can't see him, or you could be full of the love that you shared with him. You can turn your back on tomorrow, live yesterday, or be happy for tomorrow because of yesterday. You can remember him and only that he's gone, or cherish his memory and let it live on. You could try and close your eyes, be empty and turn back, or you could do what I believe Donny would want. Smile, open your eyes, and go on. And I believe Donny would want us all to smile, open our eyes, and go on. Well, on behalf of our Lighthouse family here, we want to thank you all so much for being here. For myself, Alan, Tracy, Jonathan, we want to thank you for entrusting Donny to our care. In just a moment, we're going to dismiss from here. We're going to give you an opportunity to go just across the foyer here for some food and some fellowship there. Also, we're going to give you an opportunity, starting with the back row, coming forward row by row, and paying tribute here at Donny's urn. As Chris had mentioned, Donny's going to be interned with Betty, and you saw it there in the tribute video, the love that he had for Betty, and that's timeless love there. Also, someone on Zoom had asked in the chat room, they had asked if there'll be a copy of this memorial service, and there will be on the Lighthouse website in, I believe, Monday or Tuesday. That should be on there. It'll be this, also the clips that you saw today, so you can view those there, download them, and keep that wonderful memory, share that memory with others. But you know, as Chris said, there's going to be, later on, they're going to be interned together. And I know when you see someone, the place where someone is interned, it has a marker on there. It has a marker with names and, of course, 2 dates. And those markers are all over this country and all over this world of those that have passed. And although the markers may be similar in shape and style, they vary greatly in the time of the dates. The first date is, of course, the day a person was born. The second date, a day that they passed. The times vary so greatly between those 2 dates. Sometimes those dates may match or come close to matching because they were here maybe a day or less, but they left an imprint on their family. Not too long ago, I did a service. The lady was 105. And you figure Donny and his time that he had between his 2 dates, which I can't tell you what they are, but in those times, he spent a lot of time really just spreading love and loving all of you. And he did his dates very well. In closing, I'd like to share a poem that's called The Dash. It says, I read of a man who stood to speak at the funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on his tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that first came the date of his birth, and then the following date he spoke with tears. But he said, what mattered most of all was the dash between those years. For that dash represented all the time that he spent alive on earth. And now, only those that loved him know what that little line is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we live in love and how we spend our dash. And Donny spent his dash well, loving each of you very, very much. Well, as I said, we're going to have a time to dismiss here. We'd like to give you an opportunity, starting with the back row, coming forward row by row. Pay respects here at Donny's urn. You can see that picture if it didn't make the rounds around to you. Also, I want to encourage you as you do come forward to pay respects, to take your hand, place your hand on Donny's urn, leave an imprint on his urn just as he imprinted each and every one of your lives. And once again, on behalf of Lighthouse, myself, the family, thank you all so much for being here. Thank you all of you who are joining us virtually today. We really appreciate you being part of us today. Take care. If you'd like to start with the back row, please stand. Please come forward if you'd like to. If you don't feel comfortable coming forward, you're welcome to join the family and us back at the memorial reception room in the back. Thanks so much.
I grabbed the key for the garage. I found.
Okay, you found the one that was on the, oh, right. Before we leave, park the cross. Just get your phone number. My phone, the small number you used to text me, got stolen. But I want to ask how this is. So that's why I don't know if you would text me on purpose.
La circunstancia que nos vemos, ¿verdad? No hablé con él hace como 3 meses.
No, it's okay. Porque so do I.
Él me ayudó a poner una casa y hasta me dijo que iba a ir a visitarme. Él iba a ir a visitarme, pero no quiero. Pero no, sí, no. Lamento todo, pero sí. Mucho gusto verte. Cuídate. ¿Cómo te está yendo? Bien, fíjate que me va muy bien, gracias. Nomás que sí está muy caliente ya la calor. Pero, yo trabajo por aquí en Santa Fe, hora y 10 minutos del Materno. Pero estoy buscando trabajo allá también. Sí. Porque sí, para que llegue más. Ok.
Just for a couple.
I forgot to name her. You knew it? Oh, yeah. Everything about it. Yeah, that's what he likes to say.
Yeah, that was really touching. Don was a great guy. I only knew him for like a year, but I really know it's like, I don't know, I just connected with him.
You take a picture of it.
Well, to all of you joining us on Zoom, we want to thank you all so much for being here today. On behalf of the family and Lighthouse Memorials, we thank you. In just a moment, we are going to cut the live feed. We're going to have a time of reception. We wish you could be here with us during that time. As I mentioned during the service, Monday or Tuesday of next week, it'll be on the LA Funeral website. They'll have the clips, the videos that are being shown. You'll be able to go on there and view them there on our website or download those for a future memory. But once again, on behalf of the family, Lighthouse Memorials, myself, we thank you all for being here so much today, celebrating Donny. Take care. Is that a pleasant glitch?
It should be called Zoom for a reason. Yeah. I always tell people you can't zoom.
President and a man named Hank Gillis who come down with a bad case of the mumps over here. That's a special? Yeah, that's her. Ought to be here in a couple of minutes now.
Pardon me. Sheriff, I'm looking for my dad. Have you seen him?
Fellow Americans, with a feeling of high honor and humble respect, I present to you President Theodore Roosevelt.
Why'd you do it, boy? Why in the world would you want to shoot Colonel Dodge?
I didn't try to shoot Colonel Dodge.
You mean you tried to shoot the president?
No, I didn't try to shoot him either. I shot clear over the roof of the hotel.
We're just trying to find out why you shot at that balcony.
I didn't. Honest, I didn't.
So long, Tommy.
So long, Colonel. And thanks.
Hey, Cracker, want to go into town and give this up? We'll give you extra duty. Sergeant Grant.
How's the neck, Wilcox?
Coming along fine, sir. Thursday they take off the saddle.
Where are they shipping you?
No place. I put in for the new class.
You cracked up on the tower. You know what'll happen to you if you go up in a plane?
Hiya, folks.
Fill it up, please.
Yes, ma'am. Each of a day, isn't it?
What?
I say it's a nice day.
Knock it off.
Check that oil and water?
No, never mind.
Okay. Tell him we're in a hurry.
Say, don't bother with that. We're in sort of a hurry.
Oh, sure thing. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Just a minute, ma'am. Something wrong? Boy, I just saw you got your skirt caught in the door here.
Yes, thanks. Thanks very much.
Okay.
How's it going?
Oh, it's quiet.
Hey, what the heck is this?
Scandinavian Airlines Flight 576, isn't it?
That's Flight 576. He's 90 degrees off course. I better call the patrol plane and check.
What do you say, Dan?
He gave us 2 days to leave the country or we've got a war on our hands. Open the gate.
Yes, sir.
Harvey?
Yes, sir. Mr. Boone?
You always said you'd like to have this.
Oh, yes, sir.
You watch it for me, and if I don't come back, it's yours.
Whatever you're fixing to do, Dan.
I'm going to take a real long gamble, Cincinnatus.
So long, Dan.